The way he playfully teases her absolutely cracks me up. It's even more exciting knowing that he's fully aware of it and does it all on purpose. Before starting the last release volume, I reread the third volume to make some videos about it. I already made two, but there are still a lot of their moments together in that volume, so stay if you want to hear me talk a bit more about them and get to know about this scene where she literally bites his neck. Alright, so skipping past their carriage ride and their meeting with Lady Melia, we see Rishi with Bishop Schneider, where he told her not to marry Prince Arnold. And before she could ask why he would say such a thing, Arnold arrives there, leveling a glare at Schneider as cold as ice. I believe I made myself clear when I said no one from the church was to get anywhere near my wife outside of the ceremony. The poor guy tried so hard to stay composed, but it was clear that he was terrified of Arnold. Regardless, Schneider seemed intent on giving him his opinion. Lady Rishi is not your wife, but your fiancé. The goddess would not approve of you calling a woman you have not yet exchanged vows as your wife. So Arnold have been going around calling Rishi his wife instead of fiancé ever since they have came to Grand Basilica. Though he had his reason, but he was so chill and cool about it that I have to reread his sentences. Like here, in response, he just said, your point being, while Bishop Schneider told him that the annulment ceremony was not yet finished and that in the eye of the goddess, he was not even Lady Rishi's fiancé. Because at this moment, she was still engaged to Crown Prince of Hermity. This might be true if Arnold was a believer, but he wasn't. So he says, I don't know if you can wrap your mind around the concept of differing values, but I will never get on my knees and beg forgiveness from the goddess, and took Rishi's hand and pulled her toward him, or perhaps away from Schneider. He then turned his dark gaze upon the bishop. Not even if I commit the grievous sin of killing you. Schneider paled and clenched his teeth. As he hurried away, Rishi frowned, feeling awkward. She steadied Arnold, who was still holding her hand. Someone's in a bad mood, she thought, but the bishop was right, so she goes, don't you think it's better not to call me your wife when we're only engaged? She's fully aware that it wasn't the first time he had done it, and was sure that there would be a reason why he did it, but they weren't married yet, and referring to her as such invited misunderstandings. But Arnold didn't even seem to be a bit remorseful. It's done deal anyways, he said. What is? You becoming my wife? He said it as a matter of fact that Rishi felt her heart jump into her throat. She was worried that she would yelp or do something just as embarrassing, so she covered her mouth with the hand Arnold hadn't grabbed. The prince gave her a quizzical look. What is it? Nothing? She mumbled, and Arnold looked even more wary. Rishi removed her hand from her mouth and said quietly, I don't think anything in life is a done deal, Your Highness. You never know what will happen. We may be engaged, but no one can predict the future, can they? She told him and went on to say that she doesn't just mean that their engagement might not work out, but also the fact that she could die before their wedding ceremony. To that, Arnold didn't respond. She couldn't tell him that she had died several times before, so it was probably just coming off as hypothetical. Rishi was about to say more, but before she could, Arnold's free hand cupped her jaw, and he gently but firmly turned her face up to his. With the light of the sunset behind him, he steadied her with narrow eyes. I won't allow that. She gulped and thought, that's not very convincing, considering you're the reason for all my death so far, Your Highness. She couldn't voice the objection aloud. No point in saying it to the current Prince Arnold anyways. Having no possible way of knowing her thoughts, Arnold's face inched closer to her. What's your answer? His voice was husky and just a little sweet. Rishi felt like she was being scolded and comforted at the same time. Tell me you understand, or I'll make you understand like I did before, he said, and ran his thumb across the corner of her lips. But he didn't quite touch them. Still, it was a clear warning. Her back was tickled by the shiver running down her spine. When he said before, he meant the time when he had suddenly kissed her. His hands were gentle, but there was a hardness to his gaze. Rishi managed to squeeze out a response, you're teasing me again. His last kiss had been rather forceful. She didn't know his motive, but she knew that Prince Arnold tended to act like a villain when he wanted to hide something. I can tell that much. You're not the type to be cruel for no reason, Prince Arnold, she said. I wonder about that, he replied. And the next moment, Rishi's eyes went wide. Arnold had drew closer to her. He was looking down at her with his intense eyes. As he was still holding her chin, she couldn't look away from him. He bent over her right then and there. Remembering the last time, Rishi squeezed her eyes shut, but he moved away from her, saying that he had no reason to listen to the church or their goddess. The conversation shifted and she asked him about the salam written there in front of them, in crusade language. That said, the girl with the color of the flower was descended from the goddess and led the people as a royal priestess. So, just to make it clear to him, she told him that she wasn't from the royal bloodline. Though her hair color might be coral, but it was only because of her mother's red hair and her father's blonde hair. At first, Arnold didn't understand her, but as she kept on going, he puts her off by saying, even if the goddess herself manifested before me, I'd have no interest in her, let alone her bloodline. Rishi blinked. With that that serious look in his eyes, he looked even more handsome than usual. His gaze still firmly fixed on her, he said, "There's only one person I'll ever kneel to." In Galkian, men kneeled and kisses the back of a woman's hand to propose. Remembering the occasion, Rishi felt her cheeks burn. Arnold smirked when he saw how flustered she'd become. So he reached out and ruffled her hairs. "I'm in much better mood now. I'll go back to work." And with that, he went back, leaving Rishi with burning cheeks and unsteady heartbeat. Throughout the volume, he teases her a lot. And he also teases her in this volume the other time with the conversation of their non-existent children. So what happens in the beginning after meeting Lady Melia, Arnold had said to Rishi that he doesn't like children in response to her question to why he was kind of glaring at the young lady. And later she told this to Oliver, his attendant, as he had said, "You're too kind, Lady Rishi. I'm sure that's why Lady Melia trusts you so much. If she'd clung to my lord instead of you on the first meeting, the situation would have doubtless taken a turn for the worse." He praised Rishi, but she said, "There's nothing special about me, but I certainly can't imagine how the two of them might interact. Besides, His Highness told me he doesn't like children." Hearing that, Oliver looked so shocked. He should have never said such a thing to his future wife. He complains, and Rishi's eyes widened in surprise. But Oliver bowed his head. "I sincerely apologize, Lady Rishi. I will be sure to have strict words with my lord later on." I can't believe him. It's like he doesn't even understand that one day you'll have to raise a ear. No, it's perfectly fine. Please don't worry about it. Rishi hurriedly tried to change the subject and was successful in doing so. She could put Oliver off, but Arnold is just built different. Because after he made an agreement to forge a new relationship between Galkian and the church, so in that way the children of the priestess bloodline do not have to shoulder such a burden. Not just Lady Melia, but any future children as well. Those future children would include Arnold and Rishi's kids someday, since Arnold was the one with the royal priestess blood in him. After the agreement, Rishi said, "Good, I think Lady Melia will be happy about this too." To which Arnold's mouth bent in a frown. "I don't like children." "My Oliver would be upset if he hears you say that," she teased. He asked her why, and she told him what Oliver had said to her, making him laugh. He tilted Rishi's head in his direction and said, "I didn't think you have the resolve for that." She hadn't expected this turn of conversation. What do you mean, resolve? You're talking about an heir, aren't you? Snyder was talking about our future children as well. He clarifies, and she squeaked. Her mind went blank. Arnold chuckled, asking if she didn't get it. She did get it, of course, but she was thinking about it hypothetically, not in a practical terms. He smiled at her, drinking in her flustered state. "You knew, and yet you set up different rooms for us in the detached palace?" He teased, but she couldn't let him know the extent of her panic, so she said the first thing that comes to her mind. "That's because you promised at first not to lay a finger on me, Prince Arnold, and you annulled that engagement several days ago, so I'm no longer in such an obligation." He playfully put her excuse off, and his finger traced the band around her ring finger. She was now in a full-on panic mode. "I'm teasing you too much," Arnold smirked, seeing how beside herself Rishi was, and added, "Don't worry, even after we're married, I won't take advantage of you." Which sounded very sweet to me, but she thought that Prince Arnold obviously had proposed to her with some sort of ulterior motives in mind, and was not looking for her to play the role of a real wife. Oddly enough, the thought both relieved and distressed her. Rishi tilted her head in confusion, as a dull ache settled in her chest. While oblivious to Rishi and her feelings, Arnold leaned back once more and loosed a yawn. Seeing him act so defenseless, she decided to put her own emotions aside for the moment. "Are you tired?" she asked. "Yes." His tone was gentle than usual. She asked him if he would like some rest, and he said, "I suppose so." Then he stretched out on the couch, laying his head on Rishi's lap, saying, "Lend me your lap, I'll take a nap here." She didn't mind per se, they were just a bit close, and Arnold's head was now resting on her thighs, which felt strange, but what was even stranger was that she was not bothered by it at all. But she did tell him that she would make an uncomfortable pillow, but he didn't care, saying that even the last time he had slept well and didn't have any nightmares. She still wanted to argue back, but he suddenly asked her what she was dreaming about, the time they had fallen asleep together after he took care of her as she was poisoned. "Late at night, I was checking your condition, and you rubbed your cheeks against my hand and smiled," he said. While she knew exactly what she was dreaming about, she didn't tell him, saying, "It's a secret." He said, "A secret, I'm jealous." It brought back memories, as he always seemed to be jealous of himself, because even this time she was dreaming about him. "Don't lie," she said, covering Arnold's eyes. "Please rest already." After a while, he did fall asleep, and Rishi thought of Oliver, who was left positioned in the hall outside, as Arnold had asked Rishi to leave him there and not inform him of Arnold's sudden nap, because he'd been disobeying his order too much lately. But Rishi was fairly certain that everything Oliver did, he did it for his lord, and his disobedience in question was not stopping Rishi from reaching Arnold or interfering in his plan of murder. Back then, when he was walking toward the Archbishop, sword in his hand, the blow-wielding monk scattered in all directions. Prince Arnold, Rishi called, but he ignored her, moving toward the Archbishop, who was doubled over on the steps leading to the altar, holding his injured leg that Rishi had shot with an arrow from over 100 miles away. He said with a shaky voice, "Stay back," and Arnold snapped, "Silence." His voice was ice cold. Rishi couldn't see his face, but she could see Archbishop's expression as he attempted to crawl away from Arnold, who said, "I haven't permitted you to speak." The Archbishop was wheezing in terror. What expression of Arnold was he seeing? Because his face was tense, pale, and twitching. It was so funny that the Archbishop didn't understand what Arnold was so angry about, because he kept on saying that he never wanted the treaty to be broken and that he was on the Galcan Emperor's side, the side that wanted Lady Melia gone, while Arnold was angry because of the fact that he wanted to hurt Lady Melia and had hurt Rishi on the way. The Archbishop prayed, not to the goddess, but to Arnold. "I beg you, please understand." One of the most prominent religious figure in the world was pleading with Arnold, whose response was, "And why should I have to listen to your prayers?" He was literally begging Arnold, who had no interest in any world of their creation. "Unlike my father, I'm perfectly content to end you." And then goes on to say, "This is extremely convenient." Arnold must be smiling because Rishi knew it from the look of the bishop's face. The treaty did give him the excuse to get rid of the Archbishop. At last, Rishi finally reached them. "Your Highness," she grabbed Arnold's sleeve and called out to him, out of breath. But Arnold didn't answer her. He didn't even look her way. She said his name once again, as if in a prayer. "Prince Arnold?" After several painful seconds, Arnold turned around, scowling. "Rishi, don't tell me you're about to beg for his life." "I'm afraid that's exactly what I'm going to do. Please put the sword away." Arnold sneered at her. "You're just saying that because you were the only one who nearly died from all this. You're too indifferent to your own safety. You act like if you've forgotten your own mortality." On the inside, Rishi was sweating, but she made sure not to show it on her face. She looked Arnold in the eye and pleaded with him, giving him logical reasons to why he should not kill that man. But he said, "Why should I care?" shaking her hand off. She wanted to use her whole body to stop him, but if she leaped in front of the Archbishop, all Arnold had to do was to push her aside. He can't kill him. She doesn't want him to think that he can only use the same method as his father to accomplish things. She knew Arnold wasn't the sort of person who believed murder was the best way to solve problem. Yet he still moved toward him. "I have to distract him. I need to get him to stop thinking about how much he wants to kill that man," she thought. Arnold adjusted his grip on the sword to get into position. The Archbishop was completely petrified with fear. She thought and finally found a solution. Something that had distracted her from everything that she was feeling and thinking at that time. Something that Arnold had done to her before. Now that she had a plan of action, there was no time to waste. She ran up to Arnold and reached for him, throwing her arms around his neck, using her weight to pull him closer. Her eyes locked in the exposed nape above his high collar. Then she brought her lips down on it. "What are you?" He couldn't complete his sentence as she opened her mouth wide and bit down hard on Arnold's neck. He was dumbfounded by her actions, and the large room went completely quiet. Arnold's bloodlust wavered. At the same moment, his hand went to her hip, and Rishi released Arnold's neck with a grasp. His blue eyes considered Rishi from up close. "What are you doing?" he asked with a glare. Although he didn't seem nearly as murderous, his face was somehow more frightening. Oliver and the Archbishop watched with their mouths open in shock. With Arnold's hand around her waist, Rishi blinked. "What am I doing?" A beat. "Oh no, did it hurt?" she asked suddenly, and he replied with a raised voice uncharacteristically. "I didn't say anything about that." Pretty sure he was a bit flustered, but Rishi didn't care. Her plan had worked perfectly. With a sigh of relief, she reached up to touch Arnold's cheek and said, "I was trying to make you look at me." Holding his face in her hand, she looked into his deep blue eyes. They were so close that she could see herself in them. Now that she got his attention, she told him her thoughts again, saying that he wasn't even mad for his own sake, but rather for Lady Melia and for her, and maybe for his mother's sake. "You said that I was too indifferent to my own safety. Well, to me it seemed as though you're indifferent to your own emotions, Prince Arnold." "What are you?" "Please," she said gently, stopping him. This time, she didn't touch his cheek. Instead, she looked down, holding his sleeve. "I don't want a kind person like you to keep acting as if killing people doesn't affect you," she said. sad because no one gets him like she does. She knows him more than he knows himself, even when he have all these walls around himself. In the end, he let the Archbishop go, and she proved yet again that she was the only one who could handle him with his anger, coldness, maybe not his teasing side a bit, but that's a different thing. And I'm sure that she would never not be embarrassed by his closeness and his teasing, because later in Volume 4, he will even punish her with this fact. Even with this video, their carriage scene was still left out. There were these little sweet scenes with her playing a magic trick on him and making him wear a flower crown with her blessing. But I guess that would be all. I promise I won't talk about Volume 3 anymore, and we'll continue with Volume 4. Thank you for listening to me. Tell me your favorite scene of them from any volume. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.
And the lows, no, you'll never be the same. I don't really wanna hurt you, but I can't control the pain. If you're sticking by my side, maybe we could be okay. Okay, maybe you could be the change.